So hey everybody, and welcome to a location called Almost a Ranch Road. So today I'm out doing some setups for one of my clients. We've actually set up a ortho mosaic for them, a couple of flight paths for reusable flights, because this is going to be a build site at some point in the near future. So this is going to be one of the new big projects that I've been talking about, where we're going to be capturing from start to finish a single family residential home out here off of Almost a Ranch Road. I still get a kick out of the road name. Now you're probably wondering, hey Rich, you're away from people, why do you have a mask on? Corona's not going to find you there. You're absolutely right, but I do have severe allergies as well. It is juniper season, and I'm gonna be washing my face off really good when I get back to the office, because it's thick today. There's a lot of pollen, super high pollen count, so I bring this along as well. So what you're going to see upcoming in this video are some of the captures. So we've done captures for 360s, both in the air and on the ground. We've done your standard still photography of a raw land site. And of course, we've actually built a 2D and 3D model with our flights that we tested the other day. Now we're going to be coming back with new data, and we're going to be refining everything and putting it into a nice presentation for the client. And this is just the start of their project. So what's going to be happening in this project after I do each of the flights is, of course, we're going to be doing my deliverable setups on a private web page for the client, password protected. That way they can get a look at it and keep track of their building. Now, I do know that the builder that they're going to be working with has several other projects going on, and there's already some consideration about doing some time-lapse progression stuff for those sites as well. I don't know if you can hear it off in the distance or if the road's doing a really good job of leveling this stuff out, but over in the distance we do have construction off here. You'll see some of that when you see the 360s that we have. So this dirt road going in is actually co-located next to another already paved pad, so there's 3 different pads here. We've got one over where my truck is hiding right now, we've got one right here, and then we've got one in here as well. Oh, and finally, just to let you know, so all the images that we're doing for these folks, once again, we don't put down boundary lines because that is the realm of licensed survey engineers, and so we respect that, and we're not drawing anything in like that. So we let the realtor and the builder know ahead of time that these are images, not touching boundaries. And I think with the inclusion of the 360s, it's going to be easier for people to understand where they are in the property space and where the buildings might go, and what kind of views they'd like to see. All right, the wind is picking up here again, so I'm glad I just packed everything up. We're not going to show any of the flight today because I need to pay attention to doing my flights when I'm out here doing the flights, and not pay attention to this recorder's on, that recorder's on, this recorder's on. You get the idea. So in the interest of safety, when I'm doing bigger scale projects, I will come back and do things afterwards specifically for a video, but when I'm actually doing the client work specifically, I need to pay really close attention because I do have a list of things I need to get done for them. All right, everybody, we're going to pack the Canon M50 up, and I think this week we're also going to talk about what came out on this project setup. And I've got so I got 5 more to do in the next couple of days, so hopefully the wind will calm down a little bit and we'll still get some interesting cloud cover. So we've got some nice stuff going on today. It should look relatively interesting for all the photos that we've snapped today and all the 360s we've set up. All right, everybody, let's go pack up, shall we? We shall. So hey there, everybody, and welcome back to the office. So in the previous video segment, we were out at Almost a Ranch Road, and hey, it is almost a ranch out there. And now we're back in the office. It's actually a day later, so I got everything set up when I got back to the office yesterday, and I started tearing into things and just working on the images and organizing everything. So what I'm doing here with this video is we're just establishing the start of a new project together. So you're going to get to see more components of the project as it goes along. So don't worry about that. You'll get some more insights, I promise you. So for that location, we set up a Ground Station Pro flight to do our test 3D model. And in addition to that, we also set up the Litchi app. So the Litchi app is being used to collect still photos for time lapsing over time. So we established some of our corners, some of our initial corners. But once the construction area gets going and the actual building site is finalized, I will be updating some of the flights. So those still photo flights, and we'll also be setting up for some final video time lapse as well. So we're way at the beginning of this project. So, stay tuned, subscribe, hit that little dinner bell button down below. That way, when the new videos come out, you'll be made aware of it so that you can follow along with this project. So I offloaded everything yesterday to Lightroom, as I've said in so many other videos here. I use Lightroom for all of my photography management, and it really helps keep me on track. So what we did yesterday, oh, there goes an email ding, sorry about that. So what we were doing yesterday was getting some of those establishing images. So we got some still photos, and we also set up a couple of panos because the client's interested in some panos for these time lapses as well. Now, number one, we're looking at the Lightroom library, so you might be saying to yourself, what's going on here, Rich? Let's zoom in here. So this is our starting point, and as you can see, we've got a stack of 6. So normally I will import my images when I return to the office, and I will do auto stacking of images for when we're doing bracketed shots or when we're setting things up for 360 panos as well. So this image actually contains a group of 6 images, and the top image is the almost finalized edit. So there's what we got out of that shot. We're looking from a northeast corner out toward the southwest corner of the property. So we're showing off the property, and of course there's some other imagery in the background, the neighboring house across the road and down a ways. So we wanted to not only be able to show the property, but also what surrounds the property and what makes that an interesting location that you might want to build at. So let's open up this stack really quick. So like I said, I offload everything, and then usually I'll sit down and start doing some minor edits and just getting things ready. Before this drives me crazy, let me just reach over and turn the audio off on the iMac. Sorry about those email dings. Sorry, this is number 1. This is the final, almost final developed version. So we were out earlier in the day, so the sun was still coming up, and so behind us to the east is where the sky gets really washed out. If you've done any kind of photography, you know shooting into the sun, never works out well. So this is the final version, but what we did here is we took the original images. So I actually set the Mavic 2 Pro up for doing bracketed exposures. So we actually did 5 brackets for each scene so that we could get a little more dynamic range out of it. Now, when the drone is up in the air, we're not using off-camera flash or anything, so we are working with, the ambient light that we have for the day. We've always got extreme blown out areas, and we've always got shadowed areas. Even at high noon, we're still gonna have issues. But one of the nice things with high dynamic range photography and bracketing is that we can blend things and get something better. The sum of all those parts into that final whole piece looks a lot better. So here's the first bracket. There's an underexposed, there's a more overexposed, deeper underexposed, and much more overexposed. And I've done HDR for a long time, done a lot of landscape photography work, beautiful locations here in Arizona. And there are many HDR applications out there. I have to say that Lightroom does a really good job on very simple HDR. It doesn't oversaturate or anything. It does kind of a nice neutral job when we're doing things outdoors. So all I did in here, once I decided this is one of the images I wanted to utilize, was I selected the 5 exposures, and we just jumped down into photo merge, and we did an HDR photo merge. So I'm still going to be tweaking these images just a little more to make sure that I like the way they look between the BenQ screen and also the iMac screen as well. And with the iMac 2017, it's also a color calibrated monitor, so I have a very good feel of where we're going to be at with those images. So we're not going to HDR these right now. We're going to close that stack back up. And so I went through for each of the different scenes and did the same thing. Took the 5 bracketed exposures, did a simple HDR blend in Lightroom, and then started doing a little fine tuning in the develop module. So let's pull that one back up one more time, and we're going to hit the D key for the develop module. And we'll see over on the right hand side. So when we did that blending, it actually dropped the exposure a little bit, pushed contrast up just ever so slightly, dropped the highlights way down so that we could get more in the skies here, and also pushed the shadows up as well. The whites were pushed up a little bit, blacks just down. So this is where you can start fine tuning to your own preferences as well. And you know, if you're going to be doing time-lapse images, most likely, if you're not doing them at the same time of day, you're not going to continuously reuse the same settings. Overcast days versus bright blue sky days are going to look a lot different on these properties, and that's something you're going to have to learn how to live with, because you're not going to fine-tune things to make them all look like that starting point. Things are going to change over time, not just the construction site, but also where the sun is in the sky, and how long it takes for this construction job to be completed. So if we start a new construction job in, early summer, it might run into the winter months, and you're going to be dealing with extremely different light conditions as your project evolves. All right, I'm hitting the G key just to get back to my grid view here. You'll also notice, let's zoom back in there really quick, the ones that I'm going to be using, I have pick flagged. So that's one of the things that I like about Lightroom, is the fact that I can go through and pick those that I like and ignore those that I don't. So this group of 5 right here, I decided I did not want to use, so there's no pick flag on it. And so we can actually look through here and see all of those things that I picked and did not pick. So some things didn't get edited. And once I get approval from the client, I'm going to trash all of the junk stuff that we don't want to use. But I'm going to hang on to it until I get final sign-off for the images that are being presented. Now, since I already took the time in advance of you seeing this video, let's just go ahead. I'm going to go up and let's just select our pick flags for the moment. So, and this first one here doesn't belong. That's from a shoot from a couple days before. So in total here, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9 images that I've selected. So this is actually giving the realtor and the builder just an idea from the different coordinates, I should say corners, sorry about that. And so we were shooting northwest to southeast and southwest to northeast, that kind of thing. So normally you give them 8 cardinal positions. I included a 9th just because we wanted to show off. One of the things they were very interested is making sure that people were well aware that, hey, there is a granite mountain view here, and that's going to be a big selling point without a doubt. So you can see additional construction across the way. And just to let you know, so these images, several of them were shot at about 60 feet above ground level. Several others were shot at about 100 feet above ground level. And at the moment, we don't have many points of reference into the property. Whoops, I slid the mouse there. So when we're looking at the property, we don't have many points of reference, but one of the things I've mentioned previously, we don't draw property lines on our images. So we always center on the property itself, but then we also are very inclusive with the surrounding landscape to give people a feel for where they're going to be. One interesting thing that I noticed after the shoot was done yesterday, and I offloaded these things, I just got to share this one with you, is the zoom in here. So off in the distance, that is a set of rail cars, that is a train parked out somewhere up to the north. So we do have, there are some active railroads in the area, and so yeah, there you go. There's some kind of freight train in the area. And did not notice that while I was doing the shooting, of course, because I was ground-based and hidden in the trees. So in the end, we've got 9 still images starting this project off, but we also have several other items as well. Let me just turn that one off, and let's scroll ourselves back down. In addition to those stills that we did for the clients, we also took the time to do some 360s as well. So I'm just going to pull this one up right here. And actually, before we do that, as I said, when I first import things, I will do auto stacking of the images. So if the images are shot within so many seconds of each other, they're all stacked into a group. And so as we can see right here, let's just take a zoom in. I have 26 images in this stack. This particular stack is for a 360. So when I'm utilizing the DJI Mavic 2 Pro, it does do the automatic 360s for you. That is one of the shooting modes that's available to you. And when the Mavic 2 Pro does this shooting, it generates 26 frames for you that all need to be stitched together. One of the neat things with the Mavic 2 Pro is the fact that it will also auto-stitch things together for you in camera. So this one right here is actually stitched by the DJI Mavic 2 Pro. And you can see some problems occurred. So things did not seem exactly perfect. So one of the things that I make sure of is that in the presets for doing 360s with the Mavic 2 Pro, not only do I have it seam this image together, I have it give me all of these brackets, and all of these brackets are DNGs, so they're raw. So if something goes wrong with the stitching from the Mavic 2 Pro, I still have all the files that went into the creation of this final stitched image. So I can restitch with these 26 images. So I can actually take these 26 images out, and you know what? We're gonna go ahead and sort of do that. I'm just going to do a quick export for you. So the other thing that you're going to want to do when you start getting into these projects is creating your own export presets to meet your needs, whether it's you're building 360s or you're uploading to MLS or some other requirements. You can make multiple presets for yourself. So what I want to do here is we're going to call this DSLR Pano Raw because we're taking all of the existing DNGs. We're going to export them out to a folder, and then we're going to drop them into PT GUI really quickly. So I'm just double checking, and yeah, I do want to use the DSLR Pano Raw. So this setting, I made a subfolder for all of these images that are going to go into it, and the format is going to be DNG, and we're not going to resize anything. Before we do anything else, what I'm going to do is we're actually going to open up all of those brackets. So 13, 19, we're just getting ourselves, there we are, 26. So one of the nice things with the stacking is that you do get this little number here. So this is image 26 of 26. Now that we're ready to go, I can actually do an edit in, and at the moment I have PT GUI tied in with my Lightroom installation. So we can edit, whoop, cancel that. I got ahead of myself. I want to export this first, then I'll drag them into PT GUI. If I were to export from Lightroom right now, export these 26 images, it's going to make a TIFF file out of every one of them. So instead of 26 images, I'm going to have 52 images in my Lightroom library. Starts getting messy. So instead, I'm going to go ahead and do my export. And we're going to do that DSLR Pano Raw. And let's go ahead and export. Up in the upper left corner, it's showing me the progress bar. So in just a moment, we should be good to go. So this is just one approach of doing this. There are multiple ways that you can do your stitching. So you can launch from Lightroom, or you can export to a separate folder. That way you're not making a huge mess in your Lightroom library. We're just gonna minimize that Lightroom library, and we're gonna open up that DSLR Pano. And sure enough, we have 26 images here, so that's awesome. I'm just gonna drag that over, and let's find PT GUI. There we go. And so we're going to select that entire group here, and we're going to drag them all over. Now, 9 times out of 10, you're not going to have to do this, and what your drone creates for you, especially if it's the Mavic 2 Pro, is usually a pretty nicely stitched together image. So I don't know what happened with that bottom bracket area. But, just in case, we've got that backup of all those DNGs. Now I'm going to align the images, and let's see what it gives to us. Now, number one, so that's looking really good to me. The one thing that you're going to notice on PT GUI here is this weird space above. And that weird space above is because my gimbal can't go any higher. So it can tilt up, I think, up to 30 degrees, but it can't go all the way up because the Mavic 2 Pro's body is there, so it would be shooting the body. So we do have this area of blank sky that's going to be happening. And, you know, we can pretty easily deal with that in a couple of ways. So overall, this is looking okay to me. The overall image is looking fine. So it looks like it did a nice job with the panorama. I'm going to go over and down to create the panorama. And I'm going to make this much smaller because this was huge. So I'm going to do it 6,000 by 3,000. And this time, let's pretend we're all set with editing and that we don't need to do any further editing. This one needs more editing, by the way. But let's say we don't. We're just going to go with a JPEG instead of a TIFF. The folder that I created, this DSLR Pano RAW, PT-GUI always likes to output to the folder that images came from, which is kind of convenient. So I'm going to hit the Create Panorama button here. And we're just patiently waiting for it to create that panorama. And we're all set and done. I'm going to close PT-GUI. And I'm not going to save that as a project. It's not necessary. But now in our DSLR Pano RAW, check it out. We've got our Pano. I'm going to drag this on down to Affinity Photo. And, you know, so I'm using a lot of applications here. We just played with Lightroom, we played with PT-GUI, now we're jumping into Affinity. You will get your workflow down over time as you do more of these types of jobs. And you'll also figure out quicker shortcuts, how to set up presets, all that kind of stuff. It's going to come to you over time, I promise you. So, you know, hang in there and just start building your regular routines. Now, looking down at the image, why did I bring this into Affinity Photo? Maybe you're new to the channel. There's one reason why I brought it down to Affinity Photo. It was so that I could use the layer live projection, equirectangular projection, and check it out. This is our 360, and yeah, this is looking pretty washed out. Remember, these were all DNGs, and they hadn't been edited or anything yet, so it's kind of looking a little muted, and maybe we should have prepped those DNGs beforehand, or we edit them on the tail end. It's up to you. Now, when I take a look down below, there we go, we see the helipad down there. And when I take a look up above, there is all of that missing data from the top of the sky. So we have a couple of things we can do about that. The first thing I want to do before I do anything else is I want to get rid of that helipad. So this isn't a class on Affinity Photo, but we're just jumping on over here, I'm grabbing the in-painting brush, and I'm just zapping that helipad, and that worked very nicely. Now I'm going back to my arrow key, going back to that live projection again. And what we're going to do next is go back up to the layer, and we're going to remove that live projection. So now, there we go again, we've got that whole top area, okay? What can we do about this? How can we fix this? There's a couple ways. Number one, you could put a patch up in here with a logo maybe, but if you're doing these 360s and they're going to appear on MLS, you can't have any types of branding or anything. So what are some other ways I can deal with this? Well, I'm just going to go grab my selection tool here, and actually I'm going to start from this side, and there we go. And we're going to get that selection right about there. And now that we've got that, I'm going to hit Command J, and we're going to drag this sky up. Now the sun is terribly positioned for this, and it looks like something blew up off in the distance. However, you know, this still does work well. Let's go ahead and deselect. So one way is to extend your sky. Now that we've done that, I'm going to put these two back together. We're just going to flatten those. So I did that over in my layers menu. I flattened both images. And let's go back over to that live projection again, equirectangular projection. And now let's get a look around. Oh, that's kind of cool right up there. So this one doesn't work perfectly because of the sun blasting through those hazy clouds earlier in the day. So I might want to replace that the zenith there with a nadir patch or something, and not do what I just did. But this is just one other approach for you as well. So we're going to start wrapping this up here. I just wanted to show you through a couple of things and announce the launch of this new project. And as that project starts coming together, I'll bring you along for the offloading process and everything, and some of my editing decisions as well. So hooray, big excitement here. Our latest new larger scale project is at its start, and we'll be happily bringing you along through to the end and completion of this project, which is going to be probably months and months out. This is going to be a really interesting build. So as I said before, like and subscribe down below and you'll get notifications when the new videos on this project and some of our other projects come up. Also, don't forget, every single Monday morning at 8 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, we do usually about an hour-long live stream. And also, twice a month on Sundays, for those folks on my Patreon channel, we do a private Zoom group meeting where we talk about a whole bunch of different things: photography, drone work, small business building. All that stuff comes together on this channel. All right, everybody, thanks for tuning in. Thanks for being part of this channel. I really appreciate it. And we'll see you again real soon with another update on this latest project.